Oleksandr Usyk versus Daniel Dubois happens this weekend. TNT pay-per-view over in Poland. A homecoming of sorts for Oleksandr Usyk. Obviously, it's not happening in his home country, but I believe that I know Poland borders Ukraine, so it's not a million miles away. So a bit of a homecoming of sorts. There'll be a lot of people out there cheering Oleksandr Usyk. He is defending his title against mandatory challenger with the WBA, Daniel Dubois. It is, in some aspects, a consolidation fight. The WBA do tend to do this now and again. I don't really understand why, because it's not... A consolidation would imply that the regular title is retired, but then it's just vacated and someone else can fight for it. It's really weird. I don't understand it myself. Triple G, when he fought Jacobs, that was a similar one, and the WBA regular title is still knocking around. But he's fighting Daniel Dubois. It's his mandatory with the WBA, and there's a lot of intrigue about this fight. I'm certainly intrigued about it as well, and I'm giving my 2 cents on it. I'm going to break it down, give my prediction. I had planned to do more videos on this. Wi-Fi is only back today, Wednesday, which is not ideal. It's been gone since Friday, and it's really hindered me on the channel. Like, it's hindered a little bit of the growth. Not massively, but like, I would like to be a little bit closer to 12,500 than I am. Probably not going to hit it this week. You never know. If the weekend is good, it might, but probably not, because it's slowed it down a bit. So that's the way it is. I haven't done as much on it, but we're talking about it here. We will be doing a live watch along this Saturday. I need to get the times right, because obviously Poland is an hour ahead of Ireland and the UK. I think it's an hour anyway. It could be more, but pretty sure it's only an hour. So we'll need to just get the ring times right, so we're not starting too late or too early. But anyway, that's just miscellaneous stuff there. Let's talk about the fight itself. So Dubois comes in, 25 years old. He's about 6'4", 6'5", in around. He'll probably weigh in around about the 240, low 240s, mid 240s. Oleksandr Usyk, obviously 36 years old, 6'3", southpaw, undisputed cruiserweight champion, first winner of the Muhammad Ali Trophy, unified heavyweight champion now. Over a year at the top. Well, actually a year yesterday since he fought Anthony Joshua. So he's been out of the ring a while. He's tried to unify. That's a whole other topic there. We'll go into that separately eventually in another video. We already know what happened over the last couple of months with the whole Oleksandr Usyk Tyson Fury situation, but he's been out of the ring a year. This is his first fight back. Dubois' last fight was against Kevin Lerena, which was back in December. So Dubois has been out of the ring for a sizable amount of time in of itself. It's about 8-9 months. So Dubois been a little bit inactive by his standards, and the two performances, when you look at them in contrast, Oleksandr Usyk schooled Joshua again over in Saudi Arabia, did what he needed to do, came through it, and great performance. Daniel Dubois had major scares in his last performance against Kevin Lerena. A southpaw, moving up from cruiserweight. Dimensions-wise, he's not too dissimilar to Oleksandr Usyk. Obviously, style-wise, he's not, but dimensions-wise, not too dissimilar. And he had a lot of problems in that fight. A lot of problems early on. Kevin Lerena was having a lot of success against Daniel Dubois early on in that fight. And Dubois can be a fast starter, but I often feel as though sometimes he's so focused on what he's doing early on that he can let defense just seem to slip out of his mind. And I felt that that's what he did in several fights, not just that one, against Joe Joyce as well, against Richard Latte. And that was the only real fight Richard Latte ever really, I want to say, tried, because subsequently he's been over in the UK several times. I think he fought Gorman, and I think he fought someone else as well. I think it was Fabio Wadley, and he just didn't seem to try at all in those fights. But against Dubois, he did. He caught Dubois a couple of times. It seemed to stagger Dubois, which has led people to speculate that maybe Dubois, around the whiskers, around the chin, is not necessarily the sturdiest. And certainly, well, the first knockdown against Lerena, it looked fairly innocuous, but saying that some shots can look innocuous, but they can actually have great power and velocity behind them. And that put Daniel Dubois down. The other two subsequent knockdowns, I personally don't think he was necessarily hurt per se. I think it was just more a panic station, just go down and weigh it out, see what happens. He was very nearly taken out in that first round. And it's not a good look coming into this fight with Oleksandr Usyk. It's led a lot of people to heavily favour Oleksandr Usyk to win this fight, probably by stoppage. All right. Now, Oleksandr Usyk, on the other hand, a great performance against Anthony Joshua in his last fight. Arguably, you could say the first performance was definitely better, even though it was a comprehensive schooling of Joshua. I think it was more so Joshua was a little bit better in the second fight than he was in the first fight. But either way, Oleksandr Usyk, as a fighter, tremendous fighter. He's come up to heavyweight. A lot of people early on when he was moving up to heavyweight were like, "Oh, he's too small. This that he can't punch." Usyk showed that punching power when you have skills is not the be all and end all. It's always good to have it, but Oleksandr Usyk, his movement, his ring IQ, his time, and everything is just on another level to these guys. And he has done something coming up from cruiserweight, which I like to see, in that he's not put on massive amounts of muscle unnecessarily. Oleksandr Usyk is what Oleksandr Usyk is. He is a 220-pound man. That's probably what he's coming down from cruiserweight to back when he was fighting at cruiserweight, and he's just decided, okay, I'm just not going to cut, but I'm going to weigh in what I normally would weigh in at, which is good. Oleksandr Usyk, if he was to say pack on 15 pounds of muscle and say he was the same weight as Dubois is the natural heavyweight. He's the natural guy at that weight, so he's always going to be stronger. So he's not trying to do any of that silly stuff. He's just focused on what he's good at, and we see the results. Obviously, unified heavyweight champion. Going to this fight, a lot of people are the majority from what I've seen are picking Usyk to win by knockout. But I've seen a lot of people, your Hatmans, your Outmatches of the world, shout out to those guys, Boxing Brotherhood, who have, I get the impression, well, certainly I watched the Outmatches video, but I get the impression with Hatman, he is picking Oleksandr Usyk to win, but he's not ruling out Daniel Dubois. He says, don't underestimate youth. And when I look at Dubois and I look at him from a styles point of view, people make comparisons with Dubois and Joshua in a sense that they're both quite big, robotic heavyweights. Well, Daniel Dubois is way more of a robotic, stiff heavyweight than Anthony Joshua. He's a very stiff, robotic fighter, but he doesn't fight the same as Joshua. Dubois is a more seek and destroy type of guy, whereas Joshua lately, and probably will carry on to be that way, is more of a boxer, safety first type of fighter. In the first fight with Oleksandr Usyk, you tried to outbox him. It didn't work, massively didn't work, because you were going in with a significantly faster, better boxer, better ring IQ, everything didn't work. He talked a lot about going in and really taking the bull by the horn. He didn't do that in the rematch. Again, he let himself get outboxed. He played Oleksandr Usyk at his game, and he came up second best. Dubois, I don't believe, is going to do that. That doesn't seem to be in his nature, to sit on the back foot and try and box with someone. He, in many fights against guys much bigger than Usyk, has looked to just go in, brute force and ignorance, and just try and outman them. Against Joe Joyce, that didn't work. I mean, that was a clear example of man against boy in there. Obviously, Joe Joyce is a much bigger man, naturally, much bigger than Oleksandr Usyk, so he was able to put Daniel Dubois under control with his jab, bust his eye up, and then late on in the fight, obviously, Dubois quit. Against Oleksandr Usyk, it's going to be more a case of going in there against a much better boxer, and we've seen when people really put it on Oleksandr Usyk, like Derek Chisora, he made Oleksandr Usyk very uncomfy in there. Chisora set a high tempo, he was on Oleksandr Usyk like white to rice, and Usyk at times was kind of looking at Chisora like, okay, this is interesting, It never really let him get a chance to settle. But Chisora at that stage only really had a couple of good rounds in him. Once the gas tank started to go, he started fighting in spurts. It let Usyk get into his rhythm, get into control, and he won the fight very, very clearly. I know some people try and make out that Chisora was in it. No, it was a clear Oleksandr Usyk win. It was absolutely clear. There's no debate in it. Usyk was completely outboxing Chisora once he got into his rhythm. Now, Dubois has never shown any issues with stamina in his career. He seems to be quite okay in that department. If he can put it on Oleksandr Usyk like Derek Chisora did, and bear in mind, you got to look at the dimensions. Chisora is a much shorter, more compact heavyweight than Daniel Dubois. So the way Chisora dips low, comes in, obviously Dubois is not going to be able to do that because he's obviously taller than Oleksandr Usyk, whereas Chisora was shorter. But you get the idea. That's what Dubois needs to do, and he's going to need to do it from early. He's going to need to just be on Oleksandr Usyk like white is to rice, and just make it as uncomfy for Oleksandr Usyk in there. That would give him, I believe, the best chance of winning, but also it would leave him open to being countered a lot. And if Oleksandr Usyk can really read what Daniel Dubois is doing in there, it could be a long night. Whereas if you're Oleksandr Usyk, you're just going to really want to do what you have been doing throughout your career. You just take a look. Oleksandr Usyk tends to warm into fights. I'm not saying he's a slow starter. He's not. He can really actually read opponents from very early on. But if you see Oleksandr Usyk, when he really gets into his strides, it's the mid to the end of a fight. Against Chisora, he was at his best in the mid stages of the fight. Against Anthony Joshua, Joshua did okay in the mid stages of the fight, and then Oleksandr Usyk said, "Okay, you think you're back in it? Right, keep it with me now." And it was just a rout from there on. So Daniel Dubois, he's going to really need to be fighting at a good tempo and be putting it on Oleksandr Usyk from early, but he's going to have to sustain it. And one thing about Oleksandr Usyk, even if you're having success against Oleksandr Usyk, like Tony Bellew did, because he did have success. Bellew said in the corner today of Cobalt, I can't remember what round it was, it might have been the 5th or 6th round, that just keeping up with Oleksandr Usyk, even though on judges' scorecards he was winning, was just taking all of his strength to do that. And Oleksandr Usyk knew that, and I got the impression in that fight, Oleksandr Usyk still had what he definitely did, have more gears to go through, and when he did, the fight was over. So, a bit like Lomachenko in his prime. Even if you're winning the fight or you're being competitive, it is taken so much of your goddamn strength to be competitive with this man that it fatigues you mentally. And mental fatigue is very different from physical fatigue. Some people would argue that mental fatigue is actually worse because it's taken so much of your strength to just, you're looking, you're thinking, you're doing, you do everything, that it just fatigues you. Whereas the guy, Oleksandr Usyk, is just like, well, physically I'm fine, mentally I know what I'm doing, I'm cruising. He never looked panicked, Oleksandr Usyk, in there. No matter what situation he's in, he always stays calm in the eye of the storm. He never looked panicked. Where you see opponents, even when they're having success, you can see they are tired in there. So that's going to be something Dubois is going to have to be wary of. I'm wondering if I was in Dubois' team, would I be saying set a fast pace early on and then maybe try and do it in spots later on in the fight. Maybe just kind of, when Oleksandr Usyk wants to slow it down, don't let him slow it down. And when he wants to speed it up, you try and slow him down, maybe clinch, etc., etc. Maybe that would be the best way to do it. A bit like when Douglas fought Tyson. One of the reasons why he was able to win is that when Tyson didn't want to work, Douglas worked. And when Tyson did want to work, Douglas just wrapped him up. Maybe something akin to that. Maybe. But again, it's a monumental task for Daniel Dubois. It really is. It's weird, right? Like, I expect him in this fight. I'm just going to say it. I think that Oleksandr Usyk is going to stop Daniel Dubois. I think he's going to stop him late. I would say rounds 9 to 12. But it wouldn't shock me if we're doing a post-fight review or we're doing a post-live and we're saying, although Dubois got stopped, he was more competitive in this fight than we'll say Anthony Joshua was. He had more success than Anthony Joshua did. He was able to make Oleksandr Usyk look more human. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if some people after the fight say, well, Oleksandr Usyk, he's on the slide, he stopped Dubois, but he had a lot of trouble in there, because boxing fans are very reactionary. When he fought Derek Chisora, it really amazed me when he fought Chisora, how many people wrote him off against Anthony Joshua, saying, well, if Chisora can do that, well, Anthony Joshua, it's like, when have you ever seen Anthony Joshua fight like that? Literally, he won't fight like that. It'll be a completely different fight against Anthony Joshua. And if Daniel Dubois sticks it on Oleksandr Usyk and he has success, they'll be saying, well, he's mincemeat for Tyson Fury. It's like, well, yeah, Fury can do that, but he hasn't done it in a long time. And does it come as natural to him as Daniel Dubois? I don't know. Who knows? So it wouldn't surprise me after this fight if Oleksandr Usyk, you see, a lot of people will be expecting Usyk because of Dubois' last performance, just go in there and just, do what he always does, easy night's work, stop him, see you later. A lot of people will kind of be expecting that. And maybe if they get anything less than that, it's like, oh, he's over the hill. Whereas I'm expecting a reasonably competitive fight, but I expect Usyk to pull ahead late on, and then, as I said, to just stop Daniel Dubois, whether it be a concussive effect of a shot that puts him down, whether it would be the corner deciding enough's enough, or whether Daniel Dubois, I'm not saying for definite this could happen, but there was reports saying that after the first round against Lorena, he wanted Shane McGuigan to stop it. Shane McGuigan said, no, get your ass out there, and obviously it was a good thing. And if that's what goes on in his head, it would surprise me if he just decides, you know what, enough's enough. I'm stopping this. Not the corner, not the referee. I'm saying no more. Wouldn't surprise me if that happens either, right? That Kevin Lerena fight can do one of two things for Daniel Dubois. It could have really shown him that, all right, I don't have the hunger for battle. And yeah, I came through it, but in reality, I didn't have the hunger for it. Or it could show him that actually, if I feel like I want to quit and I don't, I can still win. I can come through anything. What was I thinking? I knocked the guy out. So it can go one of two ways. It really can. I do wonder how Dubois is going to handle the pressure, because it's a big pressure situation. Obviously, against Joe Joyce, it was a pressure situation. He was definitely Frank Warren's guy. Warren and BT Sport wanted to win. He didn't have a crowd on his side, nor did he have a crowd against him. It was behind closed doors. I think he's always had the crowd on his side. This is going to be an occasion where he is going into hostile territory, right? How will Daniel Dubois handle that? Because he's never really had to go. Some people could say when he went to America and fought Trevor Bryan, but that was a farce. That whole show was just a complete joke. It looked ridiculous. This is going to be a professional. This is going to be a lot more professional. And yeah, he is going in there against the man, the house fighter, the homecoming guy. Although it's not technically homecoming, it's as close to as he's going to get. And believe me, Daniel Dubois is... he's not going to be well received, put it like that. And I wonder how he's going to react to that mentally. You see, when you look at Dubois, it's very interesting. Just to read him psychologically is extremely difficult. He's such an introvert and reserved character. You look at that and you just think, like, how would he cope in a hostile territory like this is going to be? Would he crumble, or would he just kind of put it to one side? I don't know. And there are questions we're going to get asked on Saturday. I'm looking forward to this fight. I'm paying for it, of course. And, we'll be doing a watch along. My pick for this fight, rounds 9 to 12, Oleksandr Usyk by stoppage. I think he'll stop Daniel Dubois. And I'd love to see him fight Tyson Fury after. We will hopefully get that fight. But we thought we might get it this year. Ain't gonna happen, unfortunately. That's my thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Lads, I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Share it. Do whatever you guys gotta need to do. We're back to uploads. Plenty more to come this week. Midweek report tomorrow. Yes, yes, yes. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace.